And if one guy happens to be a little bit off, then the play doesn't work. And I think it's always
right? The figuring out who's going to be number 2 is going to be a difficult decision. It would have been a much harder decision to figure out which one of those young men would start. And on full cylinder, especially when you're rotating a bunch of guys in during training camp and you have a bunch of guys taking reps. It's
clearly it's not about talent anymore. It's about something else.
Practice, games, how we operate, what we believe in. We have a very, very high standard.
I've got to be honest with you guys. Watching Shedeur Sanders with the Cleveland Browns right now feels like we're witnessing the beginning of a movie. And not just any movie. I'm talking about one of those stories where the main character has the odds stacked against him, where every little detail, every decision, every rep is part of something much bigger than what we're seeing on the surface. Now, when I first started following Shedeur in training camp, I expected the usual rookie growing pains, the hesitation, the overthinking, the moments where the speed of the game just overwhelms you. But what struck me almost immediately was the way he carried himself. And let me tell you, that matters, because in the NFL, half the battle isn't just about talent, it's about presence. When you walk into that locker room, when you step onto that practice field, the veterans, the coaches, the fans, they all notice how you carry yourself. And Shedeur, he's walking in with his calm, collected confidence like he already belongs. But don't get it twisted. This isn't some fairy tale where everything falls into place. The pressure on this kid is absolutely enormous. He's not just some rookie quarterback learning the ropes. He's Deion Sanders' son, which means he's already got the weight of expectation doubled on his back. He's coming into a Browns franchise that has been desperate for a quarterback story to finally believe in. And if that wasn't enough, every single move he makes is being picked apart by media, by analysts, by fans who are either rooting for him to succeed or waiting for him to slip. And that's what makes day 9 of training camp so fascinating. On paper, it was just another day. No live game, no big headline moment. But when you zoom in and when you really pay attention, you realize just how important these little chapters are in the bigger story. Because here's the truth, Shedeur Sanders didn't take a single first team rep that day, not one. And immediately the whisper started. Is he slipping down the depth chart? Is he just a project? Is this experiment already over before it even began? That's how fast the narrative can turn in this league. One day, you're the next big thing. The next day, you're an afterthought. But here's where it gets interesting. Shedeur didn't flinch. He didn't sulk. He didn't let it shake him. Instead, he doubled down. Every rep he took with the second team, he treated it like the Super Bowl. Every throw, every read, every movement, it all had this intensity, this focus, like he understood that his window to prove himself might be small, but he was going to squeeze every ounce of opportunity out of it. And that's the part that really sticks with me. Because so many young quarterbacks come into this league and get overwhelmed by the politics of it. The depth charts, the pecking order, the media narratives. But Shedeur? He's not running from it. He's leaning into it. And that shows you something about his mindset, about the way he's built. Think about it. How many quarterbacks crumble under that kind of spotlight? How many guys never even get the chance to rewrite their story because the pressure eats them alive before they even play a meaningful snap? But Shedeur is showing right here in camp that he's wired differently. And if you're a Browns fan, that should give you goosebumps. Now, let's talk big picture. The Cleveland Browns have had their fair share of quarterback drama. Actually, let's be honest, they've had decades of quarterback drama. From draft busts to washed veterans, to controversial stars who couldn't get it done. This franchise has been searching for that spark at quarterback for what feels like forever. And whether fair or not, a lot of people are starting to look at Shedeur like maybe, just maybe, he could be the one to finally shift that narrative. Of course, it's way too early to say he's the savior. Nobody's crowning him a franchise quarterback off of training camp highlights, but you can feel something building here. The way fans are reacting, the way media coverage is ramping up, the way teammates are quietly talking about his poise, it's all part of this larger story that's taking shape. And honestly, this is where NFL legacies are born, not in the regular season games, not even in the playoffs. They're born right here, in these dog days of camp, when nobody's watching closely except the people who know what they're looking for. And I'll tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for how Shedeur responds when things don't go his way. And so far, the answer is crystal clear. he responds with resilience. He responds with focus. He responds with a quiet confidence that says, I don't care if I'm QB2 or QB3 right now. I'm going to make this team notice me. And if you know anything about football, you know that's the kind of mentality that eventually breaks through. So here's where I'm at. Shedeur Sanders' story with the Browns is only just beginning. And it's already more dramatic, more layered, and more captivating than I expected at this stage. He hasn't played a regular season snap. He hasn't led a 2-minute drill in front of 70,000 screaming fans. He hasn't faced the chaos of an NFL pass rush under the lights. But the way he's handling this moment, the pressure, the expectations, the constant eyes on him, is giving us a preview of what kind of quarterback and what kind of man he might become. And that's why I can't look away. Because I've seen plenty of rookies come and go. I've seen guys with big arms and flashy highlights vanish into obscurity because they couldn't handle the grind. But with Shedeur, there's a different energy here. A sense that we're watching something important, something worth remembering. So buckle up, Browns fans, and honestly, buckle up NFL fans in general, because this is just the beginning of the Shedeur Sanders story. And if these early chapters are any indication, the next ones are going to be even more dramatic, even more intense, and even more unforgettable. Let's take a step back. Shedeur Sanders, the Colorado Buffaloes quarterback, son of Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, was widely considered one of the absolute top talents in this draft. We're talking top 3, maybe even top 2. The kid had it all: accuracy, arm strength, leadership, poise. He led the entire NCAA in completion percentage at 74.1%. He broke school records. He dominated headlines for months. The hype was real, and everyone in the football world knew it. And yet the NFL, in all its infinite wisdom, decided to make an example out of him. Draft night starts, and it's almost surreal. The champagne sits untouched. Cameras cut away from his private party. The room is silent, and pick after pick goes by, and he isn't called. 5 rounds, 143 names. Not one of them Shedeur Sanders. And then finally, pick 184, the Cleveland Browns. And that's when it hits me. The $50 million the kid lost just like that. Gone! Because what we're seeing isn't talent being ignored. This is politics. This is control. This is ego on display, and Shedeur is caught right in the middle. Now, I know people are going to try and compare this to Colin Kaepernick, but it's not the same. Kaepernick was blackballed for standing up for what he believed in. Shedeur wasn't banned. He wasn't blackballed for social activism. This was about optics, media perception, and maybe even bruised egos. He was embarrassed for 48 hours in front of the entire football world, and then finally landed in Cleveland, a team with quarterback chaos but still a path to the starter's job. His career isn't over, not by a long shot, but let's rewind to the combine and pre-draft process, because that's where some of this all began. The NFL sets traps for quarterbacks at every turn. Mistakes are planted intentionally to see how a player reacts under pressure. And from what we've heard, Shedeur didn't play that game. He was called out on a bad read or a missed detail, and he pushed back. Maybe I'm not the guy for you, he reportedly said. And that right there probably cost him a ton of draft stock. People called it arrogance. I call it confidence. And in the NFL, confidence is often punished when it threatens the system. And then there's the politics. Teams talk behind closed doors. Giants weren't interested. Pittsburgh had Rodgers. Tennessee had Cam Ward. That leaves Cleveland and maybe 1 or 2 others, but even then whispers were circulating behind the scenes. Owners were allegedly warning each other to stay away. Some of it tied to Deion Sanders' public comments. The NFL wasn't punishing Shedeur for football. It was punishing him for optics, for perceived baggage, for being too much of a personality, too much of a spotlight magnet. So pick 124 rolls around, and finally Cleveland steps up. But how did they know he'd still be there? How could they time it so perfectly? I've been on draft stages for years, and I've never seen anything like it. The cameras, the positioning, the whispers. This was strategy, not chance. And make no mistake, the kid lost tens of millions of dollars because of it. Then came the New York Giants drama. Leaked interview clips carefully edited to make Shedeur look unprepared, unpolished, maybe even overhyped. And social media exploded. Fans were furious. Analysts were confused. But here's the irony. The Giants tried to bury him. And instead, they made him explode. Every clip, every whisper, every tiny piece of criticism only made him hotter, more talked about, more viral. They turned him into the story they wanted to bury. Controversy in cleats. And Shedeur? He handled it like a pro. Calm, collected, focused on football. And that brings us to the field. Because at the end of the day, none of this matters if you can't play. But let me tell you, Shedeur Sanders isn't just playing, he's dominating. 4th-string at first, now running with the second team. Coaches are stunned. Players can't stop talking about his aura, his throws, the way he commands the huddle. Denzel Ward said it best. He looks different from the rest of the competition. That's someone who sees him every day, not someone reading stats online. Minicamp? Destroyed. Practice reps? Perfect. Decision making? Razor sharp. And it's not beginner's luck, it's controlled, calculated execution. Every throw on target, every pass in stride, every play demonstrates exactly why he was hyped for months. 5th round pick, doesn't matter. The draft is just paper. Football is played on grass. And on that field, Shedeur Sanders is making a statement. I am still here. I am still elite. And the NFL, for all its politics, can't stop me. And the critics, they're choking. Those same voices cheering when he was drafted low, now scrambling to justify why this kid is moving up the depth chart like a man possessed. Every completion, every touchdown, every practice highlight is a reminder real talent doesn't stay hidden forever. You can't bury it, you can't spin it, you can't leak your way out of it. It rises, and Shedeur Sanders is living proof. This isn't just a story about a quarterback anymore. This is about resilience, about navigating a league that's obsessed with control, about proving that talent and heart can overcome politics, optics, and ego. And for fans watching, it's mesmerizing because we're not just seeing a draft slide or a rise through the depth chart, we're watching history unfold. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a draft pick. He's a statement. He's a symbol. He's the kid who took the hardest road imaginable and is making the world pay attention. And if you're not paying attention yet, trust me, you will be. Because this story is far from over, and every time he takes the field, he's writing a new chapter in one of the most compelling NFL narratives we've seen in years.